Well, hello, friends. I'm Clint, and welcome to my shop. In this video, you get to see me build a wooden spiral Christmas tree for a good family friend. This was a long and tedious job. I'm always curious with other woodworkers how much time they spend on projects, but this one, I spent 40 hours total. Now that's including some hired help, which was my dad, and of course my wife and 2 kids. I won't bore you with all the details, and I don't plan to speak during this whole video as this is my first voiceover. I've never been a fan of my voice and I've always been afraid of the camera. So for me to have a YouTube channel has been kind of scary to me. But enough on my fears. Here I am ripping down all the slats. And then I have to line them up on the floor because my assembly table is not quite big enough. And make marks and then go to the miter saw one handful at a time to cut them all to the right length and at the right angle. Now this will be much easier if I just clamped all the pieces together, used a track saw, but I don't have a track saw. I do have a DIY track saw that I made for my Ryobi circular saw, but it is not a pleasure to work with. Now this of course is SPF from a big box store. I face planed, jointed one edge, and then planed the opposite face nice and flat. That way my daughter and I could glue it up. Here we are spreading the glue, what will be the base for the tree. And then we clamp it up. Now you always hear woodworkers say you can't have too many clamps. I think we may have overdid it on the clamps right here, but we did not want that thing to come loose. Here I am marking a center line on each slat. That way I have a reference point for the drill press that you'll see here in a minute. Here is my youngest daughter drilling the very first hole. So we have a reference line on each one of those boards that I showed you before. And on the jig, I have a line that shows the center of the drill bit. Here's my oldest daughter drilling the second hole. Now I left the dust collection off for them so they could kind of see what they're doing. I think when you're learning, it's good to be able to see how the bit works. Now here I have the dust collection turned on, and it makes things just a little bit easier. Now initially I was doing one board at a time because I didn't want to mess up any of the reference lines. But after a few of those boards, I realized it wasn't going to be much of an issue to do two boards, and it would actually help prevent more tear out. So that's what I did. I started doing two boards at once. Here's a better view of the reference lines on the boards and on the jig. Then I get to remove all the clamps for the base that my daughter and I glued up and put up the clamps. And of course make a mistake and have to change it. Here's a time lapse of me milling the base after the glue up, and then of course putting all the chamfers on every single piece. Now this was really time consuming. The whole time that I did a lot of this work, my dad was doing all the sanding and all these slats, if that's what you want to call them. Then I'm going to true up that base. And then go to the miter station and cut off the ends. Fun fact about my shop is most of my tools I get for really, really good prices. For instance, this rigid miter saw, a 12-inch, I paid $21 and change for it. If you're interested in how that happened, leave a comment below and I'll share the story with you. Now I didn't get all the milling of this half lap. As you can see, there's my dad in the background sanding away. I think he spent over 5 hours sanding, and I probably couldn't have done all this without him. As you've seen, that half lap fit perfectly. Now I'm putting chamfers on all the ends of that base. It's not required, but it will keep from people stubbing their toes, which is not a good feeling. Here's a close-up of Dad's setup, sanding every little piece. Here I am at the bandsaw, adding some features to the base. It looks better and it'll also sit a little more level. Then I get to clean up all those bandsaw marks with a hand plane, and I add all the chamfers on every edge with a block plane. Now this is 1/2 inch galvanized pipe. I measured it and cut it to length. And then I had to add a hole for a dowel to hang ornaments on every third piece. So I made a quick little jig. It was still tedious, but easy enough. Then I get to sand all the ends, and I made a simple little chamfer on every end also with the random orbital sander. It was a little easier this way, and I prevented any tear out that I probably would have gotten if I did this on the router table. And then it's time for finish. So I used Rubio monocoat on all the slats. Here I am at the disc sander cleaning up a template that I use for the 5 pieces that make up a star. I use that template to make rough lines to cut the pieces out at the bandsaw, and then I take it over to the disc sander and used the template to clean up each of those pieces. Then I had to cut out a bunch of circles to make name tags or ornaments and clean those up at the disc sander. Now this will be much easier if I had a CNC machine, but I don't have that yet, and I actually have no plans to ever add that to my shop. I actually prefer hand tool work over anything else. It's a lot quieter, and I get a lot more pleasure from it. It's good wood therapy. Here I am cleaning up all those ornaments a little bit more with some sandpaper, and then I have to drill a little hole in each of these so they'll fit over the dowels. After the star is glued up, I had to make a center hole for it to slide over top of that galvanized pipe. And here I am chamfering all those edges. It sure is handy being ambidextrous, because I could use the hand plane with the left hand and the right hand. Here I am sanding everything to 220, making sure there's no splinters, and here it comes together. Look at that neat little spiral. And then just to top it off, add that star to the top. Hope you guys enjoyed watching, and I hope everybody has a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Y'all take care, peace, and God bless.